So how long have you been living in this house?
5 years, about.
5 years?
Yeah.
And what's your name?
Marion.
Marion?
Morris.
Nice to meet you. I'm Obi.
Hi, Obi. Nice to meet you, too.
Good.
6, 9, oh.
6, 9. Oh.
Is that your pussy, too?
Yeah, that's one of them. Hey, you guys, I want you to hear this. This is a friend of mine that just called up, that just said that her mother called and said that she just heard that they're holding a vigil for Tim Leary's passing.
Right. At the end of that world.
Talk to the ghost himself.
This is Timothy Leary.
Great damn warrior for a long, long time, 30 years of fighting and then some. He's been there and he's been upbeat about it every step of the way. I have never heard him say a negative thing about a person. I've never heard a weak, self-pitying thought come from you. You're a great man, Tim. You're a great man.
Yeah, but what I'm doing is I'm living every day as though I were the last. And it's getting better and better and better. It's the last taboo, death, and it's going to crumble because the most important, maybe one of the most important things you do in your life is die. How are you going to do it? I've been planning it, thinking about it, and learning about the possibilities for like 20 years in general, but in the last, since January when I found out I got my terminal notice, prostate cancer. And now I'm really thinking about it a lot. And I've been a member of the Hemlock Society, and I've been very active in the self-deliverance or the design your own dying.
Does he have a place in history?
Oh man, this guy has been exiled to a kind of media Coventry for 30 years. This guy's a heavy. The more, I don't mean just being around him. If you never have seen him, just to read what he's done. To escape from a prison by climbing hand over hand across an electric wire. I mean, that's good. This is a flagship. Like Garcia, it's a flagship. This something has to do with who we are and what we want to be. And it has to do with a battle. It has to do with a battle that we all know is going on. And there's only one mother way to win it. We can't, you know, the Bosnians and the Serbs will fight forever. It would give them money, send in the UN troops. Give them LSD, would stop the thing. Fly over, LSD flybys.
Especially the pilot.
When each of you look into your own lives and your hearts, you will appreciate how he has touched so many millions of people in the way he has played so lightly on earth. Some of us he has freaked. I include myself among those. Some of us he has loved. I include myself among those. Some of us he has saved. I include myself among those. Some of us he has showed possibilities we never dreamed of. I include myself among those. So with all of that, I just want to say that Timothy, with very deep love, I think that all of us gathered for your 75th birthday is an honor that is a delight to share.
All of us that were struggling for our personal freedoms and our collective freedoms back in the 60s and 70s, we told the world what's going to happen, and now it's become a reality. It's become a reality for all American people, and they're starting to wake up. You see, the 60s and 70s, with Timothy was in that first wave. That first wave of trying to tell the people, let's become free now.
It's my ambition to really liberate the world. Why not? I mean, why settle for anything less? And I have a sense of humor about it. I know the odds are against me, but we only have a few years here. Let's try to leave this spaceship a better place.
So was Jack Kerouac over there?
I met him and hung out with him in New York. We took LSD together. And at about dawn, turned out we were the only cigarette smokers. So Jack and I were still pretty stoned. We went and snow, man, it was a blizzard. We were going through the blizzard, and we got to a store, about a six-pack of beer and some cigarettes, and a loaf of bread, right? And we're walking down this snowy street, and he runs back. He says, "Run, Jim!" I said, "Run." and he throws a football pass for the loaf of bread.
Yeah.
And I caught it.
Touchdown.
Kerouac to Leary, man.
Kerouac to Leary, lol.
What does the 60s mean? To me, it means humanism, or look within, don't follow leaders, watch your parking meters. It's a very irreverent, youthful movement. There was an enormous explosion of interest in psychoactive plants or brain-activating chemicals in the 60s. This was not new because for maybe 500 years, every counterculture, every creative minority in almost every culture has passed on this tradition of using peyote, opium, the ancient drugs from the East. It was always done by gentlemen or by musicians and all that, or painters, you know, running around with us. And I thought, these are not kids. These are very famous people that kind of get away with this. And in the 60s, because of the TV and all the electronic communication, and the kids that grew up in the 60s, they could turn channels, 3, 7, 10, 30 channels. So when they say turn on, they don't mean the refrigerator. Turn on this incredible light.
Then this tree, like a cosmic vacuum cleaner, went suck. Every cell in my body was swept into the root, twigs, branches, and leaves of this tree, tumbling and spinning down the soft, fibrous avenue to some central point, which is light. It was the center of life, a burning, dazzling, throbbing, radiant core, pure, pulsing, exulting light. Sound, touch, cell, seed, scent, soul, sleep, glory, God, the hard eye of God.
LSD is the most powerful substance that the human being has ever developed for influencing the mind. I've used the comparison of nuclear energy or a fissionable material. I think that in the right hands and with scientific and disciplined and hopeful people, it will bring about changes.
I met Timothy at Harvard in 1969, I guess. And he and I became drinking buddies at Harvard. We were both on the faculty. And the difference between us was so dramatic because Timothy was the first person at Harvard I met who didn't care that he was at Harvard. Everybody else was completely hot to be there. And I saw he was a dangerous person, but he was well worth it. And I consider Timothy perhaps a person that turned my life around, just because he introduced me to the mushrooms, and he also got me fired from Harvard.
For the last 6 years, I have taken LSD and other such drugs regularly. I consider it a part of my spiritual practice, just like we go to church once a week. I also consider it part of my scientific work. You can't study microbiological phenomena unless you look through the microscope. So I've used LSD about once a week for the last 6 years.
We were doing research at Harvard University on psychoactive brain change drugs in the context of spiritualism and of visionary experiences and the ancient sacraments. But suddenly it got out there, and the rock and roll groups were singing about it, the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. And in the West Coast, we were at Harvard. We were very, very academic. We were giving, sharing these experiences with Aldous Huxley and Arthur Kessler and Charlie Mingus and that. Out in San Francisco, Ken Kesey and his group, it was very democratic. It was called the acid test, and there'd be 1,000 people. When we heard that at Harvard, 1,000 people, how is it possible? Ken Kesey having 1,000 people dancing naked with the Grateful Dead in San Francisco using LSD. No, I could see that was going to change public perception of it. And I had no intention of staying at Harvard. I didn't want to be a professor. Good God. Actually, they kind of bribed me to stay on. With the 2 years, they kind of asked me to stay on. I did for a couple of years, but then there was that famous time that Kesey and Babbs took the first bus, you know, around the country, and it was legendary. They came to our center at Millbrook, New York, and I was up sleeping and looked out, and there came this bus, outrageous, cartoons, and they had blown a lot of minds in the Midwest and in Oklahoma as they went through, and that was a great moment to meet Kesey and all that.
I'll make a toast to the 60s, and one of the most wonderful, miraculous things of the 60s that we were all involved in was that Edgar Kesey, early in the late 40s, had predicted that California would fall into the ocean in the 60s. This is true. And he said, this does not have to happen. If the vibrations change, then California doesn't have to go. And so I was in the bus. We were going up to Portland to the Portland acid test, and Pigpen was back in the bunk bed with a Alaskan girl, a surface girl, a Mexican girl, and a girl from the valley, a valley girl, and they were all naked rolling around there, and he was singing, turn on your love light, let it shine, shine, shine. And I looked as they were in there, and this light was shining up over them. And I felt the magic of it, and then somebody says, the bus is on fire! And when Cassie had put the rear wheel on and fixed the brakes, he hadn't put any grease in the bearings, and they had burned up and got the whole rear end on fire. But the love light turned on. California did not fall into the ocean. This is a fact. The love light.
I probably push my nervous system as much as any human being living. I think I'm the strongest, sanest person around.
Tim is an original. Tim is a mixture of modern psychology, science, and a heavy mixture of the Blarney Stone mixed in with it. And Tim, 100 years ago, would be silly seeing elves and leprechauns.
100 years ago, they'd say you were possessed by the devil or you were a heretic. 20 years ago, they'd say you were a communist. Now, the really sophisticated totalitarian method now is to say that someone that is a dissenter, that is against the society, is insane. Now, maybe it is insane to be against what's happening in the United States today. Maybe it's insane to try to have hope that something can be done about it. So if that's insane, count me in. But otherwise, make up your own mind.
My judgment is that a culture, in order to be healthy, needs pseudopods that go outside of its boundaries and constantly are raising questions about its own existence, its own, and the way in which the societies we live in are feel that they have a right to control human consciousness, that's a prerogative of one human being over another. And Timothy was saying, no, you don't. There is freedom of consciousness. And I think that's a very powerful statement.
We're convinced that you'll be a better Catholic, a better Protestant, a better Jew, if you are put in touch with the energies inside of you, which have been there for millions of years. The ancient goals which we follow can be defined in modern terms, in the metaphors of the present, as turn on, tune in, and drop out.
At one time, Millbrook, our little center, it was like the clearinghouse for all the information globally about the psychedelic drugs and all that. So a lot of wonderful people came and just taught us. It was wonderful.
Our avowed aim is, of course, to bring down the American empire. Those of you in England perhaps aren't aware of the insanity of the American way of life. It's completely materialistic. It's completely devoted to the pursuit of automobiles and television and, of course, metal and steel power throughout the planet.
I declared myself a country of one, and I actually had my ambassadors go around Europe.
There was these people who used to arrive, and they're called cosmic couriers. They would have a bag of acid, and they'd give me a bag of acid, and fly off to Germany and give a bag of acid to somebody in Berlin. All this was free at this time. The idea is to spread this stuff, not make money out of it, just spread it. So I dispensed thousands and thousands of trips. And so did Leary, and so did Alpert.
It's necessary if you're a counterculture, or if you're an artist or a poet or a writer, you're creating your own realities in a way, and you're always going to get in trouble with the establishment. So it's part of the tradition. You have to go in exile. And I studied the histories, like guidebooks, Voltaire and even Freud, got kicked out of and if you're really saying something that's going to change things, you're going to have to jump on a plane and get out of town.
Last January in Afghanistan, the American government agents stole my passport illegally, kidnapped me.
Valid passport?
It was a valid passport on the sovereign territory of Afghanistan, kidnapped me, put me in a plane, brought me back, and now I'm in Folsom Prison, and I'm broadcasting again.
America imprisoned Timothy out of a sense of fury that he was laughing at them.
I've been in prisons or jails, 50 jails in 5 continents.
I've never been legitimately arrested. I'm in prison now because one evening I was in a parked car and a policeman came up to the car and opened the door against my wishes, made a pass at the ashtray and said, "You're under arrest for," I said, "For what?" He said, "For marijuana." I said, "What marijuana?" He reached in his pocket. He pulled out 2 joints that I'd never seen before, half joints, and said, "You're under arrest."
I mean, I was at the trial in Brownsville, Texas, where he was talking to 12 tried and true Texans in a court that had been convicting everybody without exception for 12 years, and he was describing the religious experience of psychedelics and the different stages of the elevator you get off and what you meet. And he was just out there doing it.
Now then the judge, instead of giving me bail, as I was entitled to for appeal, held up a book that I had been writing and said, "Your ideas are dangerous, and we're not going to give you bail, and we're going to put you in prison to keep you quiet."
I've always found Timothy is a great, a swashbuckling buccaneer. He is a true rascal.
All the models and all the philosophers and all the men that I think have really liberated humanity have all done their time on the outside. I want to get back in. I think I belong in American society.
The man sacrifices freedom so that his spirit could be free and be a role model. I think a lot of people owe Timothy Leary for their own personal freedoms.
The only things that I missed in prison was the main number thing in life, woman, and also midnight snacks. You can't get out of bed and wander down looking like that. But I could work that out because I made some friends with people that worked in the commissary at night, and so they could come by my cell at midnight, and you could have the thing you ordered. You had to pay out a little, something, cigarettes or something like that. So
I think that a society that imprisons its philosophers is playing with very bad magic. You just can't imprison ideas.
So I had an incredibly fascinating time in prison. Now, boys and girls, I'm not advocating to get busted.
Everybody had hoped that there'd be some kind of amalgamation between Leary and the Panthers. That's black and white outcasts of one kind. People who had dropped out and people who had never been in, coming together and forming some kind of amalgamation. But it was totally out of the question when you actually saw the difference between highly intellectual Leary and kind of a heavy-hood Cleaver.
Eldridge Cleaver and I disagreed strongly on philosophy and on how to change the world. I saw it more as a spiritual revolution. Eldridge, as you probably know, believed in a violent military revolution, and I felt that this was old-fashioned and would get easily wiped out and create bad vibrations where we wanted good vibrations. I believe that the revolution is a neurological revolution. It's a revolution of consciousness. I think our weapons are electronic.
Like the rest of the world, I've been very involved in computers and now multimedia, and we're developing a new language being formed, and instead of just a telephone which sends words, you'll be sending, 10-year-old kid will be sending moving pictures of the room and all that to his friend in Tokyo. Marshall McLuhan said it, global village through electronics, through using light as a source of information. The concept of who's immortal and who's an immortal, of course, is very powerful when it comes from Greek. Prometheus, against the guys up there, the lords and gods, he showed human beings how to have fire. So there have been a history of irreverent people that were passing on information to listen. It's a great tradition, and I'm happy to be part of it.
Most indigenous people know is that there is no death. There's really only a change of worlds. And Timothy is so familiar with changing worlds. He's ahead of his time.
I think there's a period when your body drops out, when your brain is still alive, because the brain gets very, the last minutes, the brain takes all the blood. When you get 120 billion neurons with the capacity of mainframe computer zooming, there's a lot going on there, because there's no more time in that sense. So that, I'm making all sorts of plans to be reincarnated, not by lighting candles to the Buddha, but by studying the advanced science of our time, biology of aging and of, I belong to 2 cryonic societies, so that I have the option to be frozen and hopefully be defrosted, popped out of the tray, and that's an option. The chances are maybe 1 in a million it's going to happen. And it's kind of a dumb idea in some ways, but the number 1 dumb thing is not to plan your death. And to just go, boom. Huxley, of course, had been studying dying, and it wasn't the last minute, oh my God, what do I do now? I'm dying. Bring me the bring me the opium, something like that. But he had been writing about it, novels, books, and because he knows, and I got from him the lesson, how you die, where, when, with whom, why, how. One of the biggest things you do, and he was planning it as I am now, so that I follow in his footsteps.
He's not going to pass on, because the work he's done, the things he's done, the people he's helped, grow, the ideas, the changes he's made will live on forever.
For me and the people that I hang around with, which are Indian people and a lot of militants, we look upon Timothy as a free spirit.
Tim is an explosion in a museum.
You get the Timothy Leary you deserve.
I don't have any advice for anyone. I'm just simply saying that we're going to be broadcasting our ideas of hope and of confidence and of courage, and we don't say we're right, but God knows we're about ready for a new philosophy.
I think that the so-called global village that McLuhan talked about is a jump in evolution, like jumping from being chimpanzees to humans. That we're going to use our brains, and we're going to be able to send in the language of brains. It's going to boom, raise the, and of course the younger you are, the more chance you have to be open for this, but it's going to go great, in my opinion, and I'm going to try to help make it go great. Thank you.